All right, yeah, Keith, you can start this one.
Hey you, and welcome to this week's podcast. I'm joined here by my good friend Mike. Hey Mike, how's it going? Was that okay?
Let me just take it from here, okay?
Oh, yeah, very.
So that was Keith's attempt. I guess it was him trying. Was that you trying to do me, or
I don't know what I was doing. I kind of blanked out there for a second.
Yeah.
So I don't know what happened.
Well,
I'll listen back and see what happened. Boom.
Yeah, just whatever the sound tumbleweeds make. Anyway, all right, so folks, now your proper hosts. Mike is reclaiming his seat at the podcast head. I'm joined by Keith.
Yep.
He's sitting across from me. He's wearing a black t-shirt. He's got a Herschel baseball cap. What is Herschel?
It's just it's a clothing company in Canada, but they make really good stuff.
Wow.
So like two of the hats.
They do. Obviously, they skipped hats. Yeah. Gotcha. Burn.
Zing.
Oh, I got you. I burned you pretty bad.
I walked into that one, my friend.
Yeah.
Walked into
Take that. That's what you get for doing an impression of me. Yeah. Operation Strike Back has been successful. Operation Take That. I'm actually just very eager to get into part 2.
Yes, we do. Yep.
We're finally doing the thing we get the most criticism about. We're actually getting into it in less than 2 minutes.
What?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we'll see what it's going.
We should banter a bit more just to waste people's time.
Let's do it. I love going to conspiracy. Actually, there's
That was your attempt. You love a good hell conspiracy.
I love a good hell conspiracy.
Nothing better.
I'm going to segue in there.
Top 5 conspiracies. Go. Moon landing, real or fake?
Moon landing that's got to be. I don't know. It's got to be real, right?
I think it's. I'm a moon landing truther. I think it's real.
It's got to be real.
Yeah.
I don't see why not.
I don't know. I keep hearing though. People are like.
We're going back there. That's not like it isn't.
Did you know
the Artemis 2
the
or
Artemis
something?
thing? But they're not actually landing.
No,
on the
they're
moon.
circling around it.
Yeah, I thought they were landing on the moon. And
No.
I was like, oh, they're circling. Who gives a shit?
Yeah,
I thought they were going to land on the moon.
Yeah, right. I thought like
Bummer.
Like you're already there. Just jump off.
Yeah, exactly. Just swing in. Sure.
See what's going on.
Go for a wander.
Yeah. What are you doing?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, it's cool, don't get me wrong, but it's like, they fucking went around the moon in like 1969.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
It was like 50 years ago.
Yeah,
This is like, so why are we making a big deal? Like, I get it. It's because we're going back. Like, I don't, why? If we're going to Mars, okay.
That'd be pretty cool.
You just pump the brakes on getting excited. Okay, talk to me when we're going to Mars.
Interestingly, today's story, I think we've already been to Mars. Ooh.
Keith.
Yeah.
Segue.
Yeah.
My bitch. Very good. Good job segueing. Okay, folks. So today we are doing the Montauk Project Part 2. So just to give you a little bit of a background, it all started with the Philadelphia experiment, which was an experiment in Philadelphia on the USS Eldridge. It was done in 1943. The idea behind the experiment was to invent some kind of way for a ship to go invisible to radar.
Yes.
Stuff like that. However, they accidentally, those science nerds, they made the ship not only go invisible to radar, to teleport and go through time.
They went too far.
The ship teleported to Norfolk, Virginia, 10 minutes before it disappeared in Philadelphia. It was mad. That was a Philadelphia experiment.
Yes.
But it came back. The sailors who were aboard the ship were driven insane by what they saw. Then, from that came the Montauk Project.
Yes.
A series of strange experiments done in Montauk, New York. Now, the base had been decommissioned.
Yeah.
Well, wink, wink, decommissioned. It had been abandoned because during the Montauk Project, they had unleashed some kind of interdimensional monster, it sounds like.
Yeah.
We'll find out more. But this all began to become uncovered by a certain Mr. Preston Nichols, a lowly radio fixer person by day, who unknowingly had a secret double life where he himself was head of the Montauk Project.
Which he only regained his memory of.
He only regained his memories of. He knew something weird was going on. He went to Montauk and he was like, oh my god, I know this place. He bumped into another guy named Duncan Cameron, who was unknowingly sent to kill him via some kind of MK Ultra repressed memories. This is literally the X-Files. I feel like I'm describing an episode of the X-Files right now. But anyway, so Preston Nichols, he was uncovering the truth about the Montauk Project. He went to Montauk. He slept on a beach. He did a lot of, on the ground, did a lot of legwork. He interviewed the local sheriff at one point, the people of Montauk.
He did, yeah, and he met a homeless guy.
He did met a homeless guy who
he gave him a lot of backstory.
Who gave him a lot of backstory and then promptly disappeared and was never brought up again.
A lot of backstory, a lot of character development.
I'm not even sure if he gave him a name.
Just homeless man.
Yeah, exactly. This is homeless exposition man who disappeared into the ether once he was done with his part in the story.
And that's when he decided to do his subsequent investigations around Montauk to get some answers. And he discovered that locals had actually been noticing some strange activities around the base around this time.
Whoa.
So there were 6 different people. They said that it had snowed in the middle of August. and there were hurricane force winds that came out of nowhere. There was thunderstorms, lightning, and hail, which were all reported under unusual circumstances.
Whoa.
Now, could this have been experiments into weather control? we don't know.
I don't know.
Also, after speaking with the chief of police, he was told there was other strange happenings around the area. So, for example, crime would be committed in a 2-hour period. Then, all of a sudden, nothing. Keep in mind, this is a very small town.
Wait, crimes would be committed in a 2-hour period?
Yeah, so the chief of police was like, it was a small town, very, very small coastal town. And all of a sudden, during like 2-hour periods, there'd be these crime sprees.
Mind control.
Mind control, yeah.
Oh, the radio waves would activate for 2 hours, drive people
Insane,
loco.
yeah. And it seemed to impact children a lot more. He was saying that there was also teens, they were
Feral
reported.
children.
They were suddenly grouping en masse for, again, this 2-hour period.
Kill them. Kill them all.
Now, this wouldn't be a case of just teenagers being teenagers. Not on your Nelly.
No way.
This had to be a result, like you said, a top secret mind control experiments.
Sounds about right.
So he was starting to uncover all this. He was on the ground. He was doing the legwork. He was figuring all this out.
Yeah.
And that's where we are now.
Exactly. He even, one more thing, he discovered in the AIL building, his contractor employer, he had a secret office he was unaware of, where he was project manager of Project Moonbeam. Now, Preston, in his own life, he was totally unaware of this. He had a Severance, like the TV show Severance-like existence. One Preston B. Nichols. But then the other Preston B. Nichols, who he wasn't even aware of, was like this super conspiratorial head of this mysterious government projects involving telepathy, interdimensional time travel. Mad shit, folks. Mad shit.
Yeah. 2 jobs, 1 paycheck.
Ooh, the scariest thing of all. Over time, Nichols had seemingly been able to unlock the entirety of his partitioned memories. By June of 1990, he now remembered his various roles in what became the Montauk Project, beginning in 1967, when Montauk Air Force Base was identified as the perfect place to try out new forms of warfare and warfighting that Nichols and others had been working on. The idea related to a discovery by Nichols that radio waves and telepathy in humans were closely related and could influence each other. The idea was to try and use radio waves to influence soldiers and combat operations. So the former base at Montauk Point, being equipped with large radio towers and transmitters, perfect place to begin these mind-controlled, experiments.
Nicholas, he claimed that the key to unlocking these memories that were suppressed came from a separate experiment he was doing in 1990 when he was constructing an antenna for the roof of his laboratory. So he claims, and this is a quote, "As I sat there and held the wires together to solder them, the time functions were causing my mind to shift. The more soldering I did, the more I became aware. Then one day, bang, the whole memory line blew open for me. All I could figure was that the Delta T antennas was storing up time flux waves as I was connecting it together. It just kept pushing my mind a little bit with regard to the time reference. The antenna was stressing the time, bending it, and enough bend was created so that I was subconsciously in 2 timelines.
Whoa.
This was my memory breakthrough. So I hope that clears it up.
Yeah, exactly. No, that's a pretty simple explanation. All right, fair enough then. As you do, there you go. All right.
What?
Now, Duncan Cameron was a friend of his who I mentioned in the beginning originally sent to murder Preston B. Nichols, then becoming his best buddy. And Duncan Cameron, he's the Kyle Reese of this story, sort of a bit of a hero, action hero type character. But strangely, and we have not talked about it yet, Duncan Cameron, he too had repressed memories. One of his repressed memories was himself and his brother, Edward, had been aboard the USS Eldridge as part of the Philadelphia experiment, which occurred in 1943. An experiment that happened when he was not even a fetus. I mean, maybe it was time control because this is all about it, but we'll get to it, folks. No spoilers.
Mind-boggling.
So Duncan Cameron, key part of the experiment, as were several more subjects who would become known as the Montauk Boys.
Nice.
Cameron and others who had been aboard the USS Eldridge were identified as being uniquely sensitive to telepathy and these specific radio frequencies, making them the perfect subjects for the experiment. Now, unfortunately, some of the experiments bordered on torture, specifically those that revolved around what became known as the chair.
Sometimes you gotta crack a few eggs, you know?
That's exactly it. Hey, listen, it's worth it. If we're gonna get this great book out of it. So the chair was a piece of equipment employed by the scientists to amplify psychic images. Now, folks, this is going to sound perfectly normal to each and every listener here. So, just listen up and try and pay attention. But I'm sure you got it. So the chair allowed for subjects to be hooked up to several receivers. Even a Cray 1 supercomputer. Have you ever seen a Cray 1 supercomputer? It's like the original big-ass computers built back like in the 50s.
Right. Okay.
They're literally like 7 feet tall.
Yeah, and they hold like 5 megabytes.
And they hold like 5 megabytes. Yeah, exactly. They can't even run Pong. But they're in this weird like crescent moon shape, like sticking up so you can stand in the middle and it's like partially surrounding you. And they're like super tall. They're like be taller than you and I. They're like crazy looking. Anyway, so the Cray 1 supercomputer would then have been able to transmit these images from the mind of the subject and display them on the monitor. One of the pieces of equipment was called the Amplitron, which was a high-powered UHF transmitter that weighed more than 300 pounds and acted as a final amplifier in the chain of several that would soup up the signals being sent out. Nice. I don't know if any of our listeners have played like Fallout. This is like this weird, crazy 1950s technology about what they thought the future is going to be like. And then you're like, they have the Roboticon and the Amplitron, like all this like very stupid stuff.
Yeah. I think they had high hopes.
Well, it worked out well because it seems to be, we have a case of it. It's real use case right here. Duncan Cameron claimed to have undergone dozens of tests in the chair during the Montauk project. And he even claimed that he'd been able to conjure items out of thin air merely by thinking about them. The experiments had involved exposing Duncan to certain specific frequencies to see what effect they would have. He recalled some of these frequencies sent him to sleep, while others caused him to rapidly shift emotions. Did you ever hear of that Mike's Tangent Corner? There's a theory of why people see ghosts is a certain frequency. Okay. It's like this very, very low frequency that can happen in caves and in basements. Yeah. Creepy places already. And it's like this, the frequency is super, super low. It's basically a vibration. And it causes these like minuscule vibrations in your eyes and stuff. And it can cause you to hallucinate.
Oh, cool.
So one theory I've heard, it also causes this like ominous feeling of dread in humans. I can't remember a whole lot about it.
I've heard that before. That feeling, like you can't really hear it. It's under your pitch range. But you have the feeling of what is going on.
Yeah, exactly. And some people think that's why people see ghosts and stuff like that. It's like kind of common in older buildings or something.
That's interesting. That's cool.
So there you go.
Yeah.
That's what those frequencies were doing to Dunk.
And he was like, according to Nicholas, Duncan, he was absolutely blasted with these microwave energy day after day. Enough to actually cause him some serious brain and tissue damage.
Damn.
So much so that in his book, Nicholas actually claims Duncan is actually brain dead.
Wow.
So, apparently he asked a neurologist who he was friendly with if it's possible that someone, how they could be brain dead and yet still be walking around. Is that possible? To which apparently they said, oh, most definitely.
Oh, of course.
He also asked the doctor because, you really want to get a second opinion with this sort of stuff. The doctor, he was a bit more reserved, and he said that they could only offer a theoretical conclusion based on psychic powers. So apparently Duncan had such strong psychic aptitude that the psychic part of his mind took over the physical part of his mind to run his body. So his brainstem was alive, the spinal cord, that was alive. His body was alive, but the actual higher brain, that was dead.
Wow.
Now, I guess some brain dead people, they can go on to live perfectly normal lives. Some even go on to write a book.
They do, yeah. There's some go on to talk about the experiences they had with reptilians. Wait, what I don't get is if he's brain dead, how is he using his psychic shit? Isn't your brain making your psychic stuff? Isn't that where your psychic powers... Charles Xavier puts his fingers to his temple when he's using his mind control.
See, the problem is, you're trying to bring logic into this conversation. Forget that. Put that out the window. That's gone. Yeah.
Silly me. What a sucker I am. All right, Keith, glad you cleared that up. So perhaps the biggest breakthrough, though, was what Duncan called the seeing eye. This involved researchers giving Duncan an item that belonged to a specific person, something deeply personal to them, or even something like a lock of their hair. This, combined with being in the chair and bombarded with the frequency of radio waves, would allow Duncan to be literally able to tune in to another person's mind and see through their eyes, hence the name. But it went deeper than that. Not only could he see through another person's eyes, remote viewing, while under these conditions, Duncan, he could hear what they heard. He could feel their emotions, their physical sensations. That led to the obvious question. Using these techniques, could the researchers influence the person's actions? And guess what? They found out that they could, because of course they did. Total and complete mind control.
That's useful.
Hella useful. Yeah. This was key to unlocking the human mind. Now, they effectively had a way to turn anyone on the planetio into their instrument. They just needed to find the right frequency and a powerful enough transmitter. The right frequency to tune into that person's mind, powerful enough transmitter to reach into that person's mind. And the effects, they weren't limited to the chair either. Workers on the experiments, the Montauk, all the Montauk project, they recorded incidents of animals in the area acting weirdly. The timing of those incidents seemed to align with when certain frequencies were being used in the chair. Nichols, in his book, when he's writing about how the chair and the technology was developed, he said, quote, this is from the book, "It is still a mystery how this technology was developed." And weirdly, Nichols was said to be like one of the project managers.
Yeah, he was helping develop it, yeah.
Exactly. So yeah, he doesn't even know how it's meant to. It's like, okay. He then goes on to say, "It has been suggested that the research was aided by the Sirians, an alien race from the star system known as Sirius." He hilariously then never mentions the aliens again in the entire book. He's like, oh yeah, and aliens gave us technology. Yeah. Anyway, moving on. By the way, now's a good point to play this interview I found on YouTube.
Okay.
This is an interview, folks, with Preston B. Nichols. It's uploaded by some random guy. I'm not sure like what the interview is from, some documentary or whatever. It was uploaded 15 years ago.
Okay, right. Yeah.
So I'm going to play you a section. And in this section, he's talking about his time on the Montauk project and his experience with a reptilian alien. Because reptilians, another personal conspiracy, favorite conspiracy of mine, play a part in this. I
personally believe that Montauk was most likely a test bed for some of the technology interchange between the aliens and the U.S. government. That they were trying out a lot of these great ideas they got. They're also trying to replicate systems and technologies they had on the captured, crashed UFOs. Also, I can remember I had an office in the radar tower. It was the first office on the second floor in the back. Next to my office was another office, and I remember, I'll swear on a stack of Bibles, I remember a lizard man in that office. It was His Highness Draco something. I can't remember the other name. And he was about 6 foot, 7 foot tall, had sort of like scaly skin, humanoid. He walked erect like we do. He had 2 arms, 2 legs. He had a tail, but it really didn't show most of the time. He had somewhat of a humanoid face, strange eyes, a big mouth, and looked like what you would expect if you're going to put together a lizard man. There was a being on Star Trek called the Gorn that Captain Kirk fought on this planet. This man that I worked next to sort of resembled that being. Now,
how did that strike you?
I didn't.
That would have to be a traumatic experience. No, not to you.
I didn't have that much to do with it. I'm not sure what it was.
Nichols Army. I was busy.
I didn't have that much to do
But
with
you
it.
accepted his presence as something normal for.
What else do you do? You're working next to this thing.
It's true.
It's, how are you? Hi, that sort of thing.
for coffee and dollars? Yeah.
He spoke in a hissy voice, hissed a lot, and sort of sounded like he was loud whispering most of the time. And then the other thing that we ran across, I needed some sodium hydroxide for a special soldering project. Of course, we all know Drano is essentially sodium hydroxide. So I went to the commissary, got a can of Drano. So I took a glass, put some water in it, dissolved the Drano, and I was using this as flux of solid wood. His Highness Draco comes in.
Oh, no.
And he said, "More!" So I got another glass of water, poured some more Draco in it, handed it to him. and the Draco was getting drunk on Drano. How the hell they can stomach that stuff? I don't know.
Well, there you go, folks. So that's a little bit of Preston B. Nichols talking about his experience working in his office next door to a lizard person. So let's get back to it anyway.
Yeah.
So eventually the experiments progressed to having Duncan Cameron, or another psychic in the chair, concentrate not on an object, but a time instead. By doing so, the researchers were able to open a time vortex. They could now send people back and forth through time. Thanks to this time dilation, huge distances meant nothing. And now Cameron was able to use his abilities in the chair to picture far off places. They were able to, using the power of the mind, the sexiest muscle of all,
Of course.
transcend time and space by creating wormholes and time vortexes.
The fabric of space, yeah.
And they were able to do this like for far off places. I'm talking MARS, the dirty Mars. According to Nichols, Cameron actually did it. Not only was old Donkey Cameron able to broadcast live images of the Red Planet through one of these time vortexes to researchers, but those images revealed evidence of, folks, a previous civilization on the Red Planet.
My days.
Over time, the team curated a library worth of tapes that acted as keys. These keys meant the person in the chair was no longer needed. They could open up, these wormholes or vortexes without needing the psychic to actually do it. So therefore, Duncan Cameron and others were able to go through the vortex into this other place. Yeah, I said it. They went to Mars. The team went back in time almost 125,000 years to find the civilization that built the pyramids on the planet.
Right.
It is mad. But also totally true. Yeah, Nichols said Mars 125,000 years ago was sort of like Total Recall. He explicitly says the movie, not the book, the Arnold Schwarzenegger movie. But that's what it was like. Yeah. According to Nichols, these various vortex experiments ran until August 12th, 1983. Exactly 40 years from the day of the disaster aboard the Eldridge that created this entire world we were now living in.
Full circle. Now, if you're wondering why Nichols never took the opportunity to time travel himself, well, that's because according to him, he was considered far too valuable to the technical operation and he was not allowed to travel through the portal. He said that it was more routine to open a tunnel, grab somebody off the streets and then send them down. Most of the time, these people, they were winos or derelicts, somebody that nobody would miss, which was lucky because a lot of them, they never made it back.
Well, I can imagine.
He also claims that the researchers, they also use kids. And I quote, for some reason.
He's ahead of the experiment, or like one of the top people in the experiment. Do we use kids? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know why. They did, I didn't do it.
Moving on.
It had nothing to do with me. So he said that the project had one kid who would go out and recruit other kids. The kids that were chosen, they were between 10 and 16. They were usually boys, blonde, blue-eyed, tall, and light-skinned. See, this is what happens when you brain drain scientists from Nazi Germany to work on your projects.
Yeah, It is all coming together.
They
I need the rights, boy.
They can't help themselves.
Yeah.
Again, some of these kids, they made a home, but many did not. The mission to Mars that you were talking about, it's such an interesting one. So the researchers, they believed that there was old technology underneath the pyramid that was on Mars. The evidence they had for this was the face on Mars.
Yes, in Cydonia.
Yeah. And you can Google it yourself, you can have a look. There's an actual face on Mars. Basically, it's a rock formation that looks like a face.
Which is what they want you to think.
But when it was discovered in 1976, they believed it was the ruins of an ancient alien civilization.
Which it is. In fact, there's an episode of The X-Files about that face.
Oh, is there?
Yep.
Oh. Apparently, when Duncan and his crew of winos and derelicts and children traveled to the inside of the pyramid on Mars, they discovered technology that they called the solar system defense.
Whoa.
So the Montauk researchers, they wanted to shut it off, which they did in 1943, which coincidentally is when UFO sightings started to happen.
Wait, so they shut it off 40... Oh, man, time travel is whack.
Yeah,
so they went back in time in like 125,000 years ago and then turned it off 40
in
years
1943.
ago.
Yeah.
Time travel. So if the dates don't seem to make sense, folks, they don't make sense to us either.
No.
But this is the nature of time travel.
Just go with it. I'm pretty sure they wanted to shut off in 1943 because I think they felt that this solar system defense, whatever radars or that was shooting out, was disrupting their Montauk research thing, and they couldn't get further than Mars.
Okay, so they were shutting off like when the Philadelphia experiment, which is the beginning of the Montauk project, they shut it off then so they could start doing their shit.
Exactly, yeah.
But Keith, what? Did I hear you say UFOs?
Oh yeah, we just opened ourselves up. A big invite out to the galaxy. Come on in.
Hence why we started seeing UFOs from the 40s onwards.
Exactly, yeah.
Interesting.
Yes.
Wow, that's crazy. And now a quick word from today's sponsor. Folks, it is almost summertime, which means one thing. Vacay baby. Time to start thinking, if you haven't already, of getting away. Well, I got the perfect help for you. It's easier than ever to overspend, right? We all know this, from subscriptions piling up to impulse buys after seeing an ad on your phone to ordering takeout a few times a month. And you're thinking, sure, what's the harm? But if you're not keeping track, it ends up adding up to a hell of a lot. And you need to start gathering those pennies so you can get on a plane. Rocket Money helps you rein it in by showing you where your money is going and helping you make better decisions so you can keep more money in your pocket. Rocket Money shows you all your expenses in one place, including subscriptions you forgot about. See, Rocket Money tracks subscriptions and has the ability to cancel within the app with just a few taps, saving time and avoiding charges. Their dashboard lays out your total financial picture, including bill due dates and paydays, in a way that's easy to digest. It consolidates checking, savings, loans, and investments into a single dashboard to give users a clear view of their financial picture. You can even automatically create custom budgets based on your past spending. Rocket Money will even try to negotiate lower bills for you. The app automatically scans your bills to find opportunities to save and then goes to work to get you better deals. They'll even talk to customer service so you don't have to, and who wants to? Users who create a financial goal with Rocket Money save over $70 on average within the first 30 days. Rocket Money has saved users over $2.5 billion, including over $880 million in canceled subscriptions alone. Their 10 million members save up to $740 a year when they use all of the app's premium features. Listen, folks, Rocket Money is your personal finance app that helps find and cancel unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and helps lower your bills so you can grow your savings. So let Rocket Money help you reach your financial goals faster. Join at rocketmoney.com/thatchapterpod. That's rocketmoney.com/thatchapterpod. rocketmoney.com/thatchapterpod. Thank you so much to Rocket Money for sponsoring the That Chapter podcast. Now let's get back to it. So on August 12th, 1983, the research team was instructed to run the transmitter non-stop. The result was that the device suddenly made a connection with something, which in turn caused the USS Eldridge to appear on the other side of the vortex. Not only that, but on the other side of the portal was none other than a 1943 version of Duncan Cameron and his brother Edward. Fortunately, the 1983 Duncan did not see his other self, who was around in the 40s.
Whew. Time paradox avoided.
Yes, exactly. Now, folks, the shit gets wild from here on in.
Yeah.
Now we're running into time paradox.
If you were confused before.
These arrogant scientists who they went too far. The incident triggered a huge panic among several of the key researchers, including Nichols. So the fear had been building for several months and was severe enough that a group within the wider team had gotten together earlier and quietly come up with a failsafe in case things got too sketchy. All they needed was for one of the group to go up to Duncan while he was in the chair and repeat a phrase. The phrase was, "The time is now. If the time vortex shit gets too messed up, we need to be able to pull the plug." As soon as Duncan heard those words, he was able to instantly conjure up an enormous beast that was seemingly able to change its appearance to suit the worst fears of whoever saw it. It's like it.
Oh, yeah.
Everybody saw it differently. Appearing as 9 feet tall to some, 30 feet tall to others, the beast was unleashed and rampaged through the base. The generators powering the chair were ordered to be shut off, but the transmitter remained powered on, and all efforts to shut it down seemed to fail. Nichols and others even tried going to the power company to shut this thing down and having the building's power shut off entirely, yet the transmitter kept transmitting. That meant that the portal to 1943 stayed open. They had inadvertently created a stable wormhole in time. The generator in 1943 above the Eldridge and the generator in the AIL building in 1983 were powering each other. So the decision was made to physically cut the 83 transmitter with a torch. Only then did the vortex finally collapse in on itself. The base was subsequently emptied, a team of Marines were sent in, Black Berets, according to Nichols. None of that Green Beret shite,
no.
tier SS plus operators. And they had orders to shoot anyone they came across. Everyone else involved, subjects, researchers, they were brainwashed, any survivors, implanted with new false memories to bury the truth. It never really explains what happened to the monster.
It doesn't, no.
That's just kind of like, and the monster was there and it appeared and then Anyway, moving on. That's literally
a lot of moving on.
That's all of Preston's story is like, this happened. And anyway, aliens were there. And anyway, the homeless guy broke this whole story. Anyway, we were using kids for some reason. It was only through a series of flukes that Nichols recovered his memories, and not only was he able to tell his story, but to dig further into the truth around Montauk and the project too. After completing his first draft of what would become the Montauk Project, Experiments in Time, Nichols made another shocking discovery. Folks, you need to sit down to hear this. Dr. von Neumann, the man he thought long dead, who had been instrumental in both the Philadelphia experiment and everything that followed, was actually alive.
Ooh, didn't see it coming.
This guy had taken over the project from fucking Tesla, of all people.
I know.
Made the Philadelphia experiment and then went on to work on the atomic bomb.
Yep.
And then he died of cancer, wink,
Apparently,
wink.
yeah.
He's still alive. Dr. von Neumann had actually been placed into a witness relocation style program and given a new identity, complete with a new job as a surplus dealer on Long Island. I love it. All the shit is happening on Montauk, and oh yeah, he went into witness protection and was moved 10 miles down the road. What are the odds?
I don't know a lot about witness protection, but it sounds like someone fucked up.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I love that.
It's the same island.
Yeah, this is all in, was it like Suffolk County?
Right,
Everybody
okay.
involved in the story is on Suffolk County in Long Island. Von Neumann was ultimately able to fill in many of the gaps in Nichols' own memory, as well as giving him much of the deeper history leading up to the Philadelphia experiment and the Montauk Project, including what became of the 1943 version of Duncan and Edward Cameron. Now we get into proper action movie territory. Okay, folks, buckle up. Time vortexes galore had to be shut down coast to coast. In the early 1990s, right, almost 5 decades on from the Philadelphia experiment in 1943, a man named Al Bielek began having strange blackouts. During these spells, he would have visions, almost like dreams, that he would soon realize were actually fragmented memories. He probably lived in Suffolk County too. Only he also was and it turned out he was my next door neighbor the whole time. Only his fragmented memories, they didn't make any sense. It was like he was remembering someone else's life. That someone was a young Navy officer named Edward Cameron. Al Bielek, he would claim that over time, and with the help of hypnosis, he was able to reconstruct Edward Cameron's memories, including his time aboard the Eldridge with his brother Duncan. More importantly, he could also recall what had happened to both he and his brother after the Eldridge, and exactly how they got to where they ended up to. And boy, was it a tale. So you have Duncan and Edward, US Navy, in 1943 above the Philadelphia experiment. Now in the 90s, these other people are having their memories, including taking their names.
Yes.
How is it possible?
It was possible, yeah.
Let's figure it out. So the brothers, the Cameron brothers, according to Bielek, had been serving aboard the Eldridge and were aboard when the fateful test took place in 1943. However, unlike their comrades, the brothers had realized just in time that, something was wrong. Something was strange was going on aboard the ship. And just as the process of cloaking the ship had been activated, or the magnetic bottle in Al's words, so basically just at the moment that the ship began to be teleported through space and time, Edward and Duncan jumped off. They literally jumped overboard and into the water in the Philadelphia harbor. But it wasn't the water. It was the future. Bielek claimed that somehow, between jumping from the ship and hitting the water, he had been hurled nearly a century into the future. It was like there was this space around the ship that also went through time. So simply getting off the ship wasn't enough. You need a clearance distance in these things.
Of course,
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So they were transported to the year 2137. When Edward came to, he was in a hospital-type setting and being treated for burns that resembled the kind caused by radiation. Duncan, his brother, seemed to have vanished completely. Edward's burns required intensive treatment, so he was confined to the hospital in the future, but eventually he recovered enough and began to ask some questions. He discovered that the world in 2137, very different place to the one he had come from, and even the world we live in today. Even the physical geography of the planet had changed, ravaged by years of nuclear destruction brought about by a war between the US-led Western Hemisphere and a China-Russia coalition. Which
Pretty
sounds
close.
sounds very possible at this point, yeah. So this had led to much of the American continent being underwater, including the entire eastern seaboard of the United States. The entire population of the planet stood at just 300 million, down from, 7 billion today? So a lot of there was a nuclear holocaust at some point in the future. Now, naturally, it was a lot to take in, but then, just as his new reality was beginning to sink in, Edward suddenly found himself once again being thrust forward through time. This time, far further than it was before. When the fog cleared, Edward found himself in the 28th century, the year being 2749. The world had changed drastically once again. Now, far from the nuclear ruins of the 22nd century, humanity and the whole planet had evolved into the best form of itself. It was pretty much the egalitarian future of Star Trek: The Next Generation. Flooding was no longer an issue, as there was floating cities that hovered miles up in the sky thanks to anti-gravity, technology. Food was no longer an issue. You could use that food generating machine to have in Star Wars. Money is not a thing. Nobody works for a living because you can just be a space captain. Or whatever the fuck they do. I don't know. I haven't watched Star Trek. I never really was much of a Trekkie personally anyway.
They were basically hippie commies.
They were basically hippie commies, but also had spaceships that could blow the shit out of stuff.
Yeah.
And they got into fist fights with reptilian aliens. Yeah.
I guess you're reading between the lines there.
I'm totally reading between the lines. But you'll also notice that Preston Nichols, who's writing this in his book, he was a big fan of Star Trek. So somehow all his visions of the future and time travel are very suspiciously similar to episodes of Star Trek.
You got a lot of things right.
Yeah, exactly. Wow, what are the odds? Yeah. So rather than being flung back or forward shortly after arriving, Edward, he actually found himself living in this new future for 2 entire years. He was able to describe how the enormous floating cities, they were run almost completely by an AI system that would help to divide up resources fairly, making sure everybody in society was provided for. People would simply do whatever job they were fit for, and society just kept on running. People didn't want for anything.
See, that's how I know it's some bullshit.
Yeah, that will never work. There's always going to be somebody wanting to fuck over somebody else. Yeah. That's just humanity. Yeah. Somebody will take advantage of the system.
That's what we're known for.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. But after 2 years in this, advanced future, Edward suddenly felt something he hadn't felt since he arrived. It was the feeling of the world around him disappearing and a new world forming. Suddenly, he was somewhere else completely. And so was his brother, Duncan. He'd been reacquainted. The two men were now faced by officials in lab coats. One of these officials introduced himself as Dr. von Neumann, the same man they'd worked with on the Eldridge, but was now an old man.
Oh.
He was in the year 1983. He'd gone from 1943 to 22-something to 27-something, back now to 1983. Von Neumann had been expecting Duncan and Edward, not only in that place, but in this exact time too. The men were told that they were part of the ongoing Philadelphia experiment, now superseded and absorbed into the Montauk project. Their travels in time had been their latest mission on behalf of the ongoing experiments. Von Neumann went on to explain how the vortex had become stuck open and someone was needed to go through and shut off the generator on the other end back in 1943. Von Neumann told the men he knew they would succeed. The historical record already said they did, they just hadn't done it yet. We already went through that vortex stuff, and that's when the monster appeared, and this is how they shut off the generator on the other side.
It's like the film Predestination.
I haven't seen it.
You've not seen Predestination?
Nope.
Oh, you'd love it.
Would I?
Yeah, you'd really like it.
What's it about?
It's like a time traveling thing. I don't want to give away too much. Go in raw. Just
Go in
see
raw
nothing.
dog it?
Yeah.
Okay.
You'll like it.
Okay.
We'll talk about it next week.
All
I can't
right.
believe you haven't seen it. It's so
No,
good.
I haven't seen it. Well, listeners, if you have seen it, it's like that. If you haven't seen it, you're in the same boat as me. So there we go.
Trust me, bro.
Okay. There you go. Trust Keith. It's like this. It's exactly like that movie.
That's this whole episode. Just trust me.
Yeah. So to prepare for their final mission, both were sent out on several exploratory trips back to 1943. On one occasion, Duncan and Edward strayed into a side tunnel and were pulled to a dimension they didn't recognize, one where aliens had created a detailed artificial reality for them to exist and communicate. Duncan and Edward were only released after promising to retrieve a vital piece of equipment for the aliens. They're going on side quests now, and this is literally a fucking video game with this shit that's coming out. The aliens needed a drive that they had lost in 1983.
The Epstein files.
Yes, it was the Epstein
Even
files.
the aliens were on
they were
like,
oh shit, get us out of here. The men completed a task and were returned to 1983 to finish off their odyssey in time. Finally, they were sent to 1943 with strict orders. I know. I'm like, what the fuck is going on at this point? Finally, they were sent to 1943 with strict orders to do whatever it took to destroy the Eldridge's ability to keep the portal open so that the future, 1983, would be safe and not end the world in a time paradox.
Makes sense.
And that meant they might need to destroy the Eldridge completely. Now, it didn't go that far, but they did cut every cable and destroy every piece of equipment they could find. The mission was successful and the Eldridge returned to its place in the shipyard. The sailors aboard none the wiser. While Duncan returned to 1983, where he would later, have his mind wiped and then meet Preston Nichols and yada yada yada. Edward, his brother, remained in 1943 upon the completion of their mission. However, that was not the end of either man. Now, that constant back and forth through time, it had a catastrophic effect on Duncan Cameron. He lost his link to the timeline. Without an anchor point, he began to age rapidly to the point of imminent death. Only his death at that point would cause all sorts of paradoxes, and in turn be catastrophic for the rest of us. In order to escape the potential apocalypse, scientists connected to the Montauk Project and the Philadelphia experiment were able to use their intimate knowledge and familiarity with Duncan Cameron to transfer his consciousness to the body of another person. To make sure there was a body freed up, the men... Fuck's sake. Okay. To make sure there was a body freed up, the team were able to contact Duncan Sr., Duncan Cameron's dad, in 1947 and tell him to start banging as much as he could to make babies. The fate of the world depended on his ability to have as much sex as possible so that he could have babies. Then, in 1951, Duncan Cameron was born. It doesn't make... yeah. The same Duncan who was now able to go on book tours with Preston B. Nichols and Al Bielek, his brother from another mother. A similar series of age regression techniques would later be used to place Edward Cameron into the body of Al Bielek.
Yeah.
So, Duncan Cameron and Edward Cameron were sailors who traveled through time, but the time travel experiments were so detrimental to their body, their consciousness had to be put into other people.
Yeah, so the researchers, they were able to put the mind of Duncan, who, remember, was brain dead.
Yes, who had no brain, but they were able to transfer a dead brain.
Into a baby.
Yes.
So to put a brain dead man into a baby.
Yeah.
To save the world. You with us?
This makes no sense whatsoever. Yeah. I don't even understand it. Let's do what Preston Nichols does. And anyway, moving on. I mean, that's how he did it in the book. That's how he literally does this section in the book. Anyway, now that you've got that, let's move on. So, folks, that's sort of the bulk of the Montauk Project conspiracy from the perspective of Nichols and co. The book is a wild-ass read. I'm actually gonna just, let me get it here, just to flick through it now. It's very technical. It's surprisingly technical, with pictures, diagrams of the systems used. All this, mad shit, radar shit. There's a lot of, it looks like, drawings that you'd see in a school physics or, electrical, mechanical type shit. The transmitter goes here, that kind of stuff. Here he's talking about the Third Reich and how Siemens supplied electrical parts to Nazi concentration and death camps. I don't know what that's got to do with anything. But, so there you go, folks. Anyway, the Montauk chair receiver. This looks like... It's just mental illness, the diagram. That's the only way I think I can describe some of these pictures, folks.
Okay.
But Nichols, he claims, all of this is true. Time travel, aliens, all of that shit. It's all totally legit. And there's actually a surprising amount of people out there who do believe this is real. I mean, we get two of them right here in this room. Yeah. It all happened. Now, in his book, he claims to avoid giving hard facts. Yeah. In the book, he never gives 100% provable things because he says he doesn't want to get sued or doesn't want any retaliation from the government. then why write the book at all? Like, I don't get it. So I won't give you hard facts. I'll just tell you all the inside story of the Montauk Project, though. It's like, what? Right. So are you going to do it or not? I mean, how are you giving a soft story of, like...
Look, do your own research, okay? That's all I'm saying.
And as crazy as this story is, like I said, there is a lot of people out there who 100% believe Nichols. The reason is simple. The government, in this case the US government, they have in true life done a lot of provably shady things, sometimes downright evil things, like MK Ultra, which did last for years and years, and that was literally about using mind control through like subliminal messaging and through drugs and stuff like that, and hallucinogens. And then there have been, whistleblowers over the years trying to expose the truth. So it's not a hard leap to go from that to telepathy and mind control, because the government even did investigate that kind of stuff, like mind control. That is, like, there has been government reports into it. There's Project Paperclip, right, where they brought, after World War II, they took literal Nazis to the United States, giving them cushy jobs.
Yeah, there was loads of shite that went on. So here's a few experiments that they did, which are wild. So the human radiation experiments, have you heard of this one?
No.
This was during the Cold War. Various US-funded experiments, they exposed people to radiation without their knowledge. So they directly injected plutonium and other radioactive elements to mostly terminal patients without their consent. They exposed US soldiers and prisoners to high level of radiation. They exposed testicles of prisoners to radiation, which caused severe birth defects.
Damn.
They exhumed bodies from graveyards to test them for radiation without the consent of the families of the deceased.
Yeah.
The scale of this issue was so serious that President Clinton, he created the Advisory Committee on Human Radiation Experiments to investigate it. There was also Operation Sea Spray. This was in 1950. The US Navy, they secretly sprayed, quote, harmless bacteria over the San Francisco Bay Area to study how vulnerable a city might be to a biological attack. So on October 11th, 1950, 11 residents, they checked into the Stanford Hospital near San Francisco with very rare, serious urinary tract infections, one of which they died 3 weeks later from a heart valve infection.
Damn.
There was also the Holmesburg prison experiments. Starting in 1951, incarcerated men at Holmesburg prison, they were used in pharmaceutical and chemical testing, including work tied to, once again, the US Army and private companies. The Holmesburg testing program, that lasted 23 years.
Wow, really?
So,
that's a long time.
Yeah, so as crazy as the Montauk Project may sound, I wouldn't put it past them.
Yeah. You can see why people would believe, oh, well, the government has done this. They'll probably do that kind of thing. As to the monster unleashed by the mind of Duncan Cameron, that, this It-style monster appeared differently to everybody, went on a rampage. The homeless guy says he fled 10 feet. This name's from the monster.
He fled and then came back.
He fled and then came back and is still living there for some reason. In short, no one knows for sure, including the three men at the center of the mystery. Preston Nichols, Duncan Cameron, and Al Bielek, the three Montauk boys, as they were called. Now, interestingly, the question about the Montauk Monster seemingly was answered in July 2008, when, get a load of this folks, a mysterious and unidentified carcass washed ashore on a beach in Rhinestone Estate Park, part of the East Hamptons, and a popular spot for surfers to visit, not far from Montauk itself. The bizarre creature was discovered by Montauk local 26-year-old Jenna Hewitt and her friends, who had been looking for a place to play around on the beach, soaking in the sun. The remains were quickly given the name the Montauk Monster, and speculation on where the creature had come from kicked off. Now, you can see pictures of the Montauk Monster yourself. I'm gonna bear with me, let me just boot it up on my computer. I remember seeing pictures of this years and years ago. Oh, it sort of just looks like a...
That's a seal.
No, it has legs, though. It's more likely a raccoon or something like that. There's only like one picture I really know. I'm not sure if there's any actual more pictures. If you Google it, you'll see a lot of fake pictures. The first one, the Wikipedia one, is the real one. It sort of looks like a dog, a hairless dog, turkey, chicken type thing, but with a beak-like mouth. The thing about that picture is, and the mystery of what the creature was quickly superseded by where the creature was. There was only that one picture, and then the remains seemed to vanish into thin air, perhaps taken by them government.
Oh, yeah.
Now, initially, the story of the monster wasn't much more than a puff piece. Lighthearted, intended to amuse the locals, rather than being some kind of cryptid that washed up on the shore. That story changed dramatically when it appeared on the now-defunct Gawker website, who ran the story devoid of any context or necessary details, because let's not let the truth get in the way of a good story.
Right.
And so the possibility of this creature being related to, the Montauk Project was unleashed. Speculation was rife and rapid, and nobody knew what happened to the carcass itself. Jenna Hewitt, who took the original picture, said that a local had taken it and kept it in his yard, though she refused to say who the local was. It's hard to say, but honestly, it's for sure like a raccoon or something like
Yeah.
that that's like lost all its hair and it's dead, or some kind of a cat or something like that.
See a
It's
bear without fur? Weird.
very weird. Yeah, exactly. It's probably something like that. It does look more like that. But that kind of like brought back the idea of the Montauk Project and conspiracies and all that kind of stuff. You know what I mean? And then to also move on to more real world stuff about the Montauk Project, there's some pretty iffy stuff about old Nichols. This is all allegedly, by the way, because some of it gets dark.
This is all allegedly.
Yeah, no, it's the entire story. Yeah, so following his experiences, Nichols has published or been involved in publishing several books on the Montauk conspiracy, made a pretty penny out of it, and to prop up his income a little, he also works with those who suspect they might have been one of the Montauk boys, one of the psychics experimented on during the projects. Not to get too deep into it, but there have been multiple allegations of Nichols having behaved inappropriately. Specifically, that he inappropriately touched several young men while they were undergoing Nichols' self-devised deprogramming techniques. These were probably people who were vulnerable people already if they believed that they were somehow involved in the Montauk Project. So, yeah, I mean, you see in the interview with Nichols, he seems like a bit of a weirdo. Now, hey, you guys know me. I'm not one to judge, but he seems but I will, and I do constantly. But he seems like a bit of a fucking weirdo.
Yeah, he does. Yeah.
He seems like he's sort of a bit of a slob-looking motherfucker. Yeah, I don't know. He just seems weird.
Yeah. Strange guy.
It's very
really
strange. Not somebody you'd want to be left in the room alone with,
definitely
kind
not.
of guy.
Someone I definitely want to do 2 podcast episodes about, though.
Yeah, we were
100%.
talking about, I love how we told a story. We're probably going to drive people to buy his book now as well. Yeah, there you go. Yeah. He's like 80 years of age now.
Is he still alive?
He's still going. Yeah.
Okay.
He's still going. He's still living in Suffolk County, New York. Probably surrounded by all these other people involved in the experiments that took place 20 minutes down the road. And somehow all live in the same neighborhood, which is mad. Oh, finally, before we finish off with this one, you're probably familiar, or at least some of this is ringing a bell. Montauk Project was the #1 inspiration for Stranger Things, the global hit TV show, which I never watched.
You didn't watch it? I watched the first season. It was good.
No, I tried to watch it back when it was coming out, when it was like a big deal, and I thought it was absolute shite. So I didn't stay up with it.
I liked the first season. It could have been darker. I think I might have said this before. I feel like they could have taken it a darker route.
Yeah.
But it was good. I liked the vibe of the 80s and stuff. That was kind of cool.
I thought it did a much better version of it. I'm sure it's probably pretty good. I'm sure that 80 million people are actually completely wrong. I'm right. Who watched it, and all the rave reviews are total bullshit. I'm correct. No, I'm sure it's a good TV show. It just didn't appeal to me. But like,
which is fair. Everyone is allowed to have their opinion.
No, they're not. Everybody must agree with me at all times. They must try to make me happy. But I'm sure it's great. I just never watched it. But I don't need to now, because now I know the story of the Montauk Project.
We know the original story.
Yeah,
the better story.
Like time travel, interdimensional monsters.
And if someone says, have you listened to Stranger Things? Okay, have you listened to That Chapter podcast?
Yes, exactly. That's what you
and
should
direct them
be
over
telling.
to us.
Yes, exactly. Listen to me. I want to also sell books about made up shit one day.
We need attention.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. More attention, please. All right, folks, but we'll leave it there for now. That was the story of the Montauk Project. I never wanted to. Okay, let's do more conspiracies. No time travel ones, though. It's too confusing
it's a mind,
for me.
I need to go home
can't.
and have it lie down, I think.
Yeah, exactly. Go straight to the lava for you. But folks, thanks for listening. Appreciate you. And yeah.
I'll see you.
There, he said the thing. All right, folks, you've been great. Thanks for listening. See you soon. Bye. The chair was a piece of equipment employed by... It's worth reading if it tortured them, So the chair was a piece of equipment employed... So stupid.
If we're doing it, we're over there.